So, what is life? I mean, it's one of the biggest questions you could possibly ask, right? We all know it when we see it, but trying to pin down a definition, that's a whole other story. Today, we're going to tackle that question, but not with philosophy. We're going to use biochemistry and look at life from the ground up, from the level of the very molecules that build us all. So let's get into it, starting not just at the dawn of life, but at the very beginning of everything.
All right, our story kicks off in this flash of truly unimaginable energy. We're talking 15, maybe 20 billion years ago. Boom. The Big Bang happens, and in the first few moments, the simplest, lightest elements are born. We're talking hydrogen and helium. These are the absolute basic building blocks of the cosmos. For the next few billion years, the universe just keeps expanding and cooling, and gravity starts to pull things together, forming the very first stars.
And this timeline really puts that cosmic chain of events into perspective. Just think about this for a second. The iron that's in your blood right now, the calcium in your bones, all of that was literally forged inside a dying star billions and billions of years ago. When those stars exploded, they seeded the entire universe with the raw materials needed to build planets, including, you guessed it, our very own Earth. And it was right here, on this brand new planet about 4 billion years ago, that something absolutely incredible started to happen. Okay, so now we've got a planet. It's rich with all these elements cooked up in stars. But this brings us to a really deep puzzle, kind of the central mystery of all biochemistry. You've got the living world, the animate stuff, and then you have the non-living, inanimate world. And here's the catch. They're both made of the exact same atoms, and they both follow the exact same laws of physics. So where does the magic happen? How does a pile of non-living stuff become alive?
This right here, this is the fundamental question. How can a bunch of lifeless molecules, just simple chemical compounds, somehow organize themselves into something that breathes and moves and grows and makes more of itself? You know, something we call a living organism. It honestly seems impossible. But as we're about to see, it's not magic at all. It's just a set of rules. So, to tell the difference between a living creature and, say, really complicated rock, biologists have come up with a sort of checklist, a set of defining characteristics, 6 key properties that, when you put them all together, they pretty much define what it means to be alive. So let's start unpacking this rule book for life, one hallmark at a time.
Okay, so here's our roadmap for what makes life, well, life. We're going to see that living things are incredibly complex and organized. They're also masters of using energy. They have this amazing ability to make nearly perfect copies of themselves. They can sense what's going on around them and react to it. Every little part inside them has a specific job. And maybe most important of all, they're always changing, always evolving. So let's kick things off with complexity.
First up, complexity and organization. And this picture just illustrates it perfectly. What you're looking at is muscle tissue. See, it's not just some random blob of molecules. No way. It's thousands of different components, each with its own specific structure, and they're all arranged in this incredibly precise and intricate way so they can do their job, which in this case is to contract. That level of microscopic organization is a total giveaway that you're looking at something that's alive.
Second, you have to understand that life is an energy game. The universe left to itself tends to get more and more chaotic and disordered. Life is the ultimate rebel against that trend. It creates and maintains order by constantly grabbing energy from its surroundings and putting it to work. I mean, look at this falcon. It's literally taking the chemical energy from its last meal and transforming it into the energy of flight, the energy of being alive. It's this constant energy-fueled fight against decay.
Third, and this one might be the most amazing hallmark of them all, precise self-replication. Life makes more of itself. A single little bacterium can turn into 1 billion identical copies in just 24 hours. And every single one of those copies, just like this little zebra foal here, is an incredibly faithful reproduction. It's all built from the genetic instruction manual passed down from its parent.
Now, the last 3 hallmarks are just as critical. First, life is responsive. Think about a plant turning its leaves toward the sun, or you yanking your hand away from a hot stove. Living things are constantly sensing their environment and adjusting. Second, life is this beautifully regulated system. All the different parts are talking to each other, working together in this dynamic network to keep everything on the inside stable. And finally, life evolves. This isn't some static blueprint. Over generations, through evolution, life adapts and changes, and that's what creates the incredible diversity we see all around us.
So where do all these amazing properties actually happen? What's the fundamental unit where all this chemistry turns into biology? Well, the answer is the cell. It is the basic unit of every single living thing we know of.
I absolutely love this quote by Francois Jacob because it just nails the idea perfectly. You know how all matter in the universe is built from atoms? Well, all life is built from cells. If you want to understand life, you have to understand the cell. It's the stage where all the action we've been talking about actually takes place.
And what's so fascinating is that even with the insane diversity of life out there, from the tiniest bacterium to the biggest blue whale, all cells are built on the same basic floor plan. They all have some kind of boundary to separate them from the outside world, they all have an internal space where the work gets done, and they all have a control center that holds the instructions for life. So let's break down these universal parts.
First things first, every single cell has a plasma membrane. You can think of it like the cell's skin. It's this thin, flexible bubble that separates what's inside the cell from everything outside. But it's not a solid wall, oh no. It's more like a really smart security gate that's constantly controlling what's allowed to come in and what has to go out.
So inside that membrane, you've got the cytoplasm. This is the entire internal world of the cell. And it's not just water, it's this super concentrated chemical soup called the cytosol. And it is jam-packed with enzymes, nutrients, and all the tiny machines that are needed to carry out life's chemical reactions.
And finally, every cell has a place where it keeps its genetic blueprint, its genome. This is the command center. It contains every single instruction for building the cell, for operating the cell, and of course, for making copies of the cell.
Now, based on how this genetic material is stored, we can basically split all cellular life into two major groups. You've got the prokaryotes, which literally means before nucleus, things like bacteria, their DNA just kind of floats around in the cytosol. Then you have the eukaryotes, meaning true nucleus, which is what we are, plants, animals. We keep our DNA tucked away neatly inside a membrane-bound nucleus.
And this brings us to our final, and I think most beautiful point. When you look at the world, you just see this almost blinding diversity of life forms. But when you zoom in, when you look at the biochemical level, you find this profound underlying unity.
I mean, on the surface, the living world is this incredible tapestry of endless variety, right? It's the result of billions of years of evolution. A bird, a mushroom, a tree, they all seem completely and totally different from each other. But if you look underneath that surface, down at the molecular level, biochemistry tells a totally different, and honestly, a pretty shocking story. What's so amazing about this slide is that it shows us our shared family tree. Because despite all that incredible diversity, all known life on this planet descended from one common ancestor. We all use the same types of molecules, DNA, RNA, proteins. We all use the exact same genetic code to read those molecules. We all share the same basic molecular logic of life, which then branched out into these three great domains you see here: bacteria, archaea, and eukaryotes.
And this brings us to a really profound conclusion, something Darwin put so perfectly. He said that even with all our complexity, we are fundamentally connected to every other living thing on this planet. The intricate organization inside our cells, the way we get energy, the genetic code that writes our story, all of it bears the indelible stamp of a shared, ancient origin. It's this incredible connection that stretches all the way back through billions of years of evolution, to the very first spark of life on Earth.